talk to Chris Jackson, storm chaser and friend of the Carolina Weather Group, who's been down in Columbia and observed at least one water rescue. And I know Chris is in the process of getting connected with us right now. Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me, James?
Yeah, we got you. We've been looking at the USGS camera. It looks like the water is starting to come down, but certainly still ongoing flooding right now in the downtown Columbia area.
Oh, for sure. The crest occurred probably about 40 minutes ago, maybe 45 minutes ago ish, and the water on Rocky Branch Creek has probably come down a good, I would say, maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 feet now, but it's starting to rapidly just descend. Thank goodness. What transpired down here this afternoon was nothing short of incredible.
Yeah, Chris, take us through what you saw. We saw some of your Twitter pictures, including the one car that was submerged in the water. Can you bring us back to those moments that you were watching unfold?
Right, absolutely, James. So, uh, I've made the decision to come down here to Rocky Branch Creek just because I know what kind of flash flooding it's capable of doing, and given the atmospheric setup today with weak steering flow aloft and moisture and precipitable water values over 2 inches, the threat of flash flooding today was going to be pretty significant if storms could fire over Columbia. And once it became evident that was going to happen, I got down here to Rocky Branch Creek and got down here about when I needed to get down here. In a matter of 6 minutes, the roadway went from being relatively dry with heavy rain falling on the road to having over 2 foot of water with rapids across the road. And while I was shooting video, two males in a car just drove straight into the floodwaters, and the creek immediately took their car and began to sweep them away. Thankfully, uh, the creek actually was able to deposit them against the train trestle that's adjacent to the intersection here at Main and Whaley Streets, and they were able to extricate themselves and kind of half swim out through the water in about chest deep water just as the Columbia Fire Department was arriving.
Yeah, Chris, we were speculating, looking at the local storm reports and looking at your tweets that noted that you weren't just observing this, but a 911 call had been placed. Were you the one who placed that 911 call, and what were those moments
Yes.
like as you were watching that rescue?
Yeah. I really felt pretty. Yeah, I've come down here for flash floods quite a few times, and caught quite a few cars going in the water, but none of them have been taken by the floodwaters in the aspect of they immediately start floating away. And given the flow that was going on down here, uh, I was immediately concerned, given my background as a swiftwater rescue instructor, 15 years at the fire department and doing swiftwater rescue all the time. I was really, really concerned. And when that vehicle got in the water and they began to get swept away, I had a lot of soul searching to do after 911 was called, because I really thought about jumping in there and getting those folks out of that car. But I didn't, because I saw them getting, deposited against the train trestle. And at that point, I was like, they're going to probably be okay. But yeah, definitely concerned for a moment.
We're glad that you're okay. We're glad that they're okay. We're continuing to look here, and the situation seems to be rapidly improving itself with the water continuing to go on down. You mentioned you've been down to this location numerous times as a storm chaser and as a local resident to observe this infamous flash flooding, and we were observing, Frank and I, on the USGS gauge that this appears to be record-breaking floods for at least this particular station that the USGS operates. Can you paint that contrast for us? How was today any different than all of the other times it floods down there?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So for reference, Rocky Branch Creek here at South Main and Whaley has always, been a local, what we used to call in the fire department, a hotspot. And hotspots are areas where you got, issues that occur on a common basis. But today, from the other floods I've seen, even earlier this year, we had a good one. Today was just a whole different animal. At one point, the stop sign here in the intersection was under, I don't know how much water, but you figure you pull up to most intersections, the stop sign is going to be 4 to 5 foot tall to the top of the stop sign, and that stop sign was completely underwater. There was it wasn't even making any ripples right under the water, so that tells me there's probably at least 6 inches of water over the top of it. And I was talking to one of the guys over NWS Columbia, and he was telling me also that this can be a record crest, which is pretty incredible given the past. With the 2015 event. So much rain falling down here, but these heavy rain events that occur in a short period of time can present their own dangers, just as significant in certain spots as something like a 2015 type event can.
Yeah, just as you were hopping on, Chris, and I'm glad you mentioned 2015, we had a YouTube comment from somebody watching who said this was rivaling that 2015 event. Can you take us back there? Remind us?
Yeah. So 2015 saw, you know, just a ton of rain. I can't remember how much fell in Columbia, but I think it was somewhere probably getting close to 2 feet of rain. And that occurred over, a 36-hour period. And what we saw then was your big rivers, the Broad, the Congaree, the Lower Saluda behind the Lake Murray Dam. Uh, we also saw them go to near record levels, and that was mainly because of all the runoff, from the bigger areas. With these flash flood events, I just want to highlight the fact that you can take a lot of rain and put it in a small area and have the same type impacts on a localized scale. But 2015 was just so much bigger in scope, scale, magnitude because of how much rain fell over a bigger area in size. And of course, in the Forest Acres area, you had every single lake and pond dam over there, which is like 10 of them. Their dams blew out, and it just started a cascade effect. And anything that was in its path was taken by it.
Chris, as you were talking and bringing us back to 2015, we're showing people the radar from the last 2 hours or so, and you can see what kicked off this just barrage of rain was the collision, it appears, of some boundaries coming off of some outflow boundaries from thunderstorms that were initially to the east and the west and the north of Columbia. They all kind of pushed and collided over Columbia at a perfect time and seemed to just saturate all of that moisture that was up there in the atmosphere. And again, less than an hour, we saw rain rates of about 4 inches. Chris, what is that like to be in 4 inches of rain in an hour?
It's hard to describe exactly how intense that rainfall is, but I mean, it's just think of the hardest rain you've ever seen in your life. I mean, 4 inch per hour rainfall rates. It is hard to get much, meteorologically speaking. It is hard to get rainfall rates that exceed that by any kind of really discernible amount. Once you get over that 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rate and start getting into the 3s and 4s, I mean, you're just talking about whiteout type rain conditions where you cannot see anything. So it's dangerous to anybody that maybe out driving on the road, might see a little bit of ponding what they think on the roadway, and next thing you know, could end up in a really bad situation. That's why it's so important for people to understand that if you do encounter a flooded roadway, the best thing to do is just to turn around and don't drown.
Frank, before we let Chris go, did you have a question for him?
Well, I did want to bring up just some statistics here. We're looking at the data from the RC Winds site, and I mentioned they have a few gauges around Columbia. The one I've been looking at here is the one at Martin Luther King Park. That's close to that's near Santee Avenue and Hardin Street in Columbia. That gauge, it reported the 4.33 that it reported came in the space of 2 hours. The peak rainfall rate I saw during that 2 hour period came between 5:45 and 6:15. 2.8 inches of rain fell in that 30-minute period. So that's 5.6 per hour.
yeah, that's coming down.
Yeah, that's some crazy rainfall rates.
Yes, it is. And the MLK Park is at the head. So I think I'm pulling up on another water rescue over here. I'm in Olympia now, but the MLK Park is at the head of Rocky Branch Creek, so that's probably a good gauge to figure out what kind of rainfall occurred at the top of the watershed.
Right, and like I said, 4.33 in 2 hours. It's just really crazy. And other heavy rain occurred around Columbia too. The one at the Richland Library on Assembly Street there, they had 4.37. I'm guessing that happened in about 2 hours too.
Yeah, that's what I've been talking with Hunter Coleman over at NWS Columbia. That's what he had told me. And just to paint another picture for you guys real quick, I'm on Olympia Avenue. If you guys have a map or anything, Olympia Avenue at the Olympia and Granby Apartments, the old mill here in Olympia. And Columbia Fire Department's here. Their Engine 2 Rescue 1 rehab truck. Looks like a battalion chief 2 probably. But there's currently cars that are, they have water up to the doors. Well up at the doors, with white water still running over Olympia Avenue right now.
Got a map of that coming up on the screen here. We did see some Columbia Fire units earlier on the USGS camera seemingly maybe trying to make their way south to that scene. As you've now kind of arrived there, not too far from the fairgrounds in the south of the University of South Carolina area.
Yeah, it appears we do have a car in the road here also that's been disabled, and it looks like they've already effected a water rescue on it. They got 2 boats out here, a couple kayaks. Their small pickup truck that carries all their boats and all their water rescue gear is also here.
Yep. Also worth mentioning, there's another USGS branch gauge that's a little farther upstream from the one on Whaley Street there. It's on Pickens Street. Relatively new one. It looks like it's only been around for a couple of years, but it also went into record territory. It went to 13.07. The highest crest before that was back on May 21st, about 10.5 feet. So that new gauge also has a new record.
Wow, that's incredible, guys.
Certainly. Chris Jackson, storm chaser, and out in his own backyard today. We've been looking at your pictures that you've been tweeting over on Twitter. If people want to follow you or see them for yourself, they can find you at Chris Jackson SC, and can continue to follow your work. And I guess you'll be watching for any potential severe storms later on this week, Chris.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate it, James. And Frank, you guys take care of yourself. If there's anything I can do, you know how to get a hold of me. But I'm going to sign off for now and get on to shoot some video here in the Olympia neighborhood.
Thank you, Chris. We'll watch for that on your Twitter. Here's a live look before we go where you can see the floodwaters have come back down along this portion of the Rocky Branch after what was record-setting at least 2 stages, or 2 different observation points, as Frank found, potentially more. And luckily, Frank, it seems like this is now getting better. I don't want to say it's gone, because as Chris was just describing and as you've been seeing, we still have the watershed that needs to absorb all this water, but we have turned a corner, I think.